Hello, welcome for this new video on the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. Today we will see two more practices around sound, with sound, verses 41 and 42 of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. So, as usual, let's first read the 41 in Sanskrit. Om tantryādivādyaśabdeṣu dīrgheṣu kramasaṃsthiteḥ ananyacetāḥ pratyante paravyomavapur bhavet. The supreme beauty, paravyomavapur, the body of the supreme space, of the supreme sky, shall arise, shall happen, or one shall become one whose body is the supreme sky. Vapuhu means beautiful body, and also body in the sense of the essential substance of something or someone. The carnal aspect, the flesh in the deepest and noblest meaning of the word. So one shall become one whose body is the supreme sky, open awareness. When one is ananyacetāḥ, one whose attention is on nothing else. Pratyante is on nothing else but the end of each. Tantryādivādyaśabdeṣu, on the end of each sound of any musical instrument, like a string instrument, for instance, tantri. Tantrin means one who has tantras, and in that case it would mean a string instrument. And those sounds, they are dīrgheṣu, they are very long lasting. They have a long sustain. Once the string has been plucked, it lasts a long time, like a Tibetan bowl or like an om, but it's a stringed om. So it's always the same practice, whether with the mantra, with light, or here with musical instrument. It's always the practice of putting one's attention on a movement of sound or movement of light, and having one's awareness being freed from any noise, from any contraction, from any fragmentation. When that sound or that light becomes more and more faint, it's being freed from all objects by riding on that object, that is the mantra, the sound, the light, the sound of the musical instrument here. And while that sound disappears, one's mind disappears. That is, one's contracted attention, one's contracted, fragmented attention disappears, evaporates, along with the sound, with the light, with the movement that one is riding like a surfer. kramasaṃsthiteḥ. So this is a more difficult expression. It would mean from or of the situation, the gradual situation. So it would allude to the melodies, I suppose. So the commentary tells us that kramasaṃsthiteḥ bahuleshu teshu vishaye ananyacetāḥ. Well, kramasaṃsthiteḥ. One should dwell at the end of each sound successively. I suppose this is alluding to the fact that the musician, or even oneself, because one can do that oneself on a piano, for instance, one will play a series of notes, a series of sound, a series of notes. So, for that very simple practice, one can listen to the sound of musical instruments like piano, guitar, or sitar, or a veena like a rudraveena. The rudraveena is the sacred instrument of Shiva. It's a tube with two huge resonators and strings on it. So it's the ancestor of the sitar. And you can play it with the left hand pulling the strings like the sitar, but in the reverse order. And what is special in Indian musical instrument is the shape of the bridge, which is flat. And there is no huge harmony flat table to put out the sound, to give the sound. But on Indian string instruments, you have that flat bridge, and the string is slightly striking that bridge, and that makes that buzzing sound. And according to the shape of the bridge, which is more or less open, you get a different buzzing sound and different harmonics, and that can be very, very, very deep. And that's what the Indian musical tradition calls nada. What Shivopadhyaya in one of the previous verses called nada bhartaraka, the sublime resonance, the sublime sound. So that can work, that can operate like a mantra. Riding on the sound, one's mind disappears along with the sound disappearing. And I would advise you to try to listen to Drupad music, which is especially designed for that. But it works with any string instrument. You can take a guitar, you can take a piano. You don't need to play music. Just one sound, one string, and listening to it from beginning to end, ananyacetāḥ, without having one's attention moving anywhere else. So this is a very simple and deep practice. You see, once you understand, once you get the principle of all those practices, you can adapt and create and imagine and explore anything, anywhere, anytime. And in fact, any movement can become a mantra. Any thought, any word, any movement of the body, any movement of nature, even the sound of a plane in the sky. Here I live in a huge, very large valley, and when you have some plane coming low, it makes a huge sound like Om, lasting for several minutes, and the whole valley is resonating like a huge musical instrument. So like that, in daily life, inner, outer, natural, artificial movements can all become natural movements back to the source, back to the background, to the sky-like awareness. So now, verse 42. Om pindamantrasya sarvasya sthūlavarṇakrameṇa ardhendubindunādāntaḥ śūnyoccārād bhavet chivaḥ. One shall become bhavet, chivaḥ, God. Śūnyoccārād, by spelling out, by elevating through the emptiness, shunya, by spelling the emptiness of the different sthūlavarṇakrameṇa, of the different audible growths, but audible syllables, varna, coming in their own order, krameṇa, and those are ardhendu, the half moon, bindu, the dot, the point, nada, the resonance again, and nādāntaḥ. In fact, there is nādāntaḥ, the end of the resonance, but there is also the resonance before, of course. So this is alluding to a traditional series of stages of the mantra enunciation, spelling out the mantra of Om. Again, of the sound fainting more and more subtle until the most subtle resonance, that is consciousness. So ardhendu is the half moon. More or less, the A is starting with the trunk, the U in the chest, the M starts with the throat, and all the other stages, there are 9 others, beside A, U, In. There are 9 other stages, they are all in the head and above the head. And the different places may change a little bit according to the traditions and the texts, but that's not so important. We should not here, I think, dwell too much on the details, because the approach of the Vijnana Bhairava is going right to the essence, to the principle. It is not just teaching means, but it's also showing us that anything can become a mean. It's showing us to be free from means, free from techniques, free from rituals. It's really making us free by teaching us the principle of practice. And then we can explore and we can find that anything may become a practice. Sarvasya of any, the different phases, more and more subtle, of the different syllables of any mantrasya, of any mantra, which is pinda, which is unpronounceable, like hasskaphrem, which is the bija mantra, the heart mantra of the goddess Kala Sankarshini. But, and this is the example that he's giving here now. Shivopadhyaya is giving the example of hasaraksha adirupa, hasaraksha malavrayum, the navatma bhairava, the navatma mantra, which is another mantra. But the pinda mantras are mantras which are made of a series of consonants. Hasaraksha malavarayum. So they are somehow a little bit to pronounce, but it's not very clear what they mean here. Asya navatmakasya paravyomavapur. But it has never been totally clear to me how those pinda mantras are to be pronounced. Of what I have heard, the different practitioners, traditional practitioners I have heard reciting those, spelling out those mantras, like the Navatma or like the mantra of Kala Sankarsini, they always pronounce it like hasskaphrem, and I have been able to hear those mantras because even though the traditions of Kashmir Shaivism of the Kali Krama are extinct, those mantras of those traditions have been kept alive within other traditions, like the Shri Vidya, for example, which has all the main mantras of the deities of the Kashmir Shaiva Kaula tradition, the Trika Kaula and Kali Krama. But anyway, it's not very different, because even if the beginning of the mantra is different from the pranava, hum, om, hrim, etc., the end is not different, and the important part is the end. The symbolic part is the beginning, but the important part from the point of view of salvation for those who aim only at spiritual liberation, the important part is the end, the subtle part, and that part is always the same, whether it is a pinda mantra, pranava, whatever. It always ends with a nasal resonance, and a resonance that goes through the skull up to the sky above the head. So one should not pay too much attention to the rest. Whether it is hasskaphrem or om does not change much, because what is important is the end of the mantra here, not the beginning, which is mainly symbolic. The different syllables representing different deities of a mandala around a central deity. So here again we have the practice of paying attention to the end of the movement. And when the movement ends, our mind ends, our troubles ends, our agitation ends. It's freed, like smoke going up in the sky, mixing in the sky. So that were the practices of today, and thank you for your listening, and have a good day, and see you next time.